optional Unit 7 is on the topic of manage learning and development in groups. I would like to here kind of open brackets and let you know that Unit 6 and Unit 8 are very similar, as Unit 8 is a continuation of the topic of quality assurance, but we are covering the units sequentially one by one. So now we're going to talk about Unit 7, which is, as I just said, manage learning and development in groups, and then we're going to transition to the final unit, which is Unit 8. And again, taking Unit 6 and Unit 8 together could actually be quite helpful. But first things first, now let's have a look at Unit 7, optional Unit 7. The aim of this unit is to enable you to manage learning and development in groups. Learning and development usually happens in groups, irrespective of whether you are a for instance, teacher in a high school or a school, or if you are a trainer. So this module is quite key, and I would strongly suggest that you take that particular optional unit. Sorry, I said module, is actually a unit, as this is going to be, we're going to be covering information that's very practical and will be really helpful to you in your roles. You'll understand how to use a variety of management methods, such as motivational strategies, behavior management, provision of advice, and strategies that drive learning. So again, there is a really big practical element that is part of Unit 7. This unit will encourage you to learn how to involve your students effectively so that they are learning the material that you're presenting, and also they are part of, you're creating a sense of belonging, thinking about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, level 3, appealing to their emotional need, which really stimulates the learning environment. So this is a very, very, very interesting unit. So let's take a closer look as to what we're going to cover. Of course, we are going to start this unit by looking at the characteristics of groups environments that foster learning and development. Okay, so what are the characteristics of groups environments? Learning preferences. Again, something that we should not skip. We should always take into consideration the learning styles. So if we have a group of five students or 5 delegates, for instance, what are their learning preferences? What are their learning styles that we should be considering? Okay. Then we're going to talk about their individual differences in order to create an inclusive environment. And we're also going to talk about the learning resources. What are the learning resources that we have selected? Are they going to be suitable to the various learning styles that we have in the classroom or in the learning environment? What are the differences and how we should ensure that we are legally compliant when we are delivering the learning content? Again, the learning objectives. What are the learning objectives that we should be meeting by facilitating the lesson or the session? Health and safety policy. These are all characteristics of environments where group learning is taking place. Okay, so during Unit 7, we are going to go through each one of those characteristics and more in much more detail. We're also going to look at the strategies that you could be using in order to manage group behavior and dynamics. Okay, so here we're going to become really practical, and we're going to talk about some of the things that you can do as a practitioner to ensure that the behavior and dynamics within the group learning environment are positive. Just a few strategies here to give you an example. One of them is creating ground rules, written or verbal. For instance, in the beginning of the session, you could be setting those rules. You could be writing them on the board, you could be communicating them if you are facilitating virtually, but these rules could be set, which will then encourage the participants to follow them. For instance, no mobile phones, no chatting, no leaving in the middle of the session to go to the restroom, toilet break. So these are just an example of some of the rules you could be setting in order to effectively manage the group learning environment. Also, raising awareness around the policies and procedure, both internal and external. That is really important, especially when it comes to health and safety and, for instance, fire evacuation. If you are delivering training face to face, it is a very good common practice when you are working with groups. It is a common practice to mention the fire regulations, and most trainers usually start by bringing those up. So again, this is just an example. Again, if you're delivering face to face, and then there are COVID-19 regulations, what are they? So as trainers, as teachers, we should always know what the key policies and procedures are that we should be taking into consideration and communicating. So during level 7, you will be asked to think about some of the key policies and procedures at your organizations, or if you aren't yet employed, you are going to be asked to do a little bit of a research into an organization of your choice that perhaps you may be thinking of joining, so that this unit could really be relevant to your area as well. Then another key strategy is delivering feedback. Constructive feedback or positive feedback. And when it comes to positive feedback, we could be delivering positive reinforcement, which is reinforcing behaviors we want to see more of. So if someone within the group does something which is really admirable, and you would like to encourage more learners to do this, for instance, they always take part, they share very useful examples, and we want to encourage more and more students, more and more delegates to bring examples, then we could give them positive reinforcement, congratulate them, say well done in front of everyone, and by doing so we encourage others to do it. And when it comes to constructive feedback, in a moment I'm actually going to show you one of the most popular methods of delivering constructive feedback, which is the feedback sandwich. That is a very popular management technique that is used across all industry when we have to deliver constructive feedback. And what that usually involves is starting with the positive, moving to the constructive element, what you want them to stop doing or do differently, and then transitioning, ending with the positive again. So there are different management techniques, there are different strategies, and again, there are also different techniques within those strategies. So we're also going to be talking about some of the management techniques that you could be using. To give you an example of a few, you could be amending your facilitation style by having an adaptive facilitation style. So during the sessions that are part of Unit 7, we're going to explore what adaptive facilitation style is. You could be using icebreakers and games to create a positive learning environment. You also could be bringing up issues or personal challenges up in order to ensure that everyone feels comfortable, of course, if you are allowed to do so, and then of course checking with the actual delegate or the student in advance. It also helps if you're aware, right? So if you are aware that there is a personal issue, it is important that you bring that up with the delegate or with the student even prior to facilitating. And I could give you an example of a personal example actually from my training practice, where we had a situation where I was delivering training to a group of people on the topic of disabilities, and one of the delegates' family member had recently had an accident. So I was giving an example of a disability and they burst into tears. I did not know that their family member had that particular disability because I did not have the awareness of their personal challenge and that particular issue. How would I know? And not knowing this key piece of information, I actually used an example of a disability, and then that created discomfort within the delegate. So again, this is a very gray area, and you cannot always avoid, you cannot anticipate that as people need to bring those issues to you so that you are aware. But if you are aware, it is important that you really understand how to use your facilitation style to ensure that the environment is inclusive. Again, coming back to the importance of creating an inclusive learning environment. We're also going to talk about the risks that we have to consider when we manage learning and development in groups. I've just spoken about the importance of creating an inclusive learning environment, the importance of being compliant, and again, we're also going to be talking about specific learning needs and disabilities that we should be considered. We're going to talk about the key legislation. So again, this module, we take it one step further when it comes to the key legislations, and we even explore the legislation that has been put together so that it protects people with disabilities, such as the SEND Code of Practice, and then how we could ensure that we are compliant with both external regulations and internal regulations. I know that what you might have noticed is that some of the learning content of the different units is similar, but it is important that these key concepts are addressed again and again through all the different units, because they really create the foundation of your successful practice and your successful performance as students and practitioners. That is why some of these concepts are discussed again and again throughout the different units. And now, as I already said, the last option